Hi, I'm Virginia Fleck. Welcome to my studio.
For episode 3 of Open Studios, we're in Austin, Texas at the studio of Virginia Fleck. Her exhibition, Mixed Mantras, opens on June the 5th in Gallery 4 at Blue Star Contemporary. Come with us as we walk through her space and discuss where consumerism and spirituality intersect. So with your mandalas, there is a connection with that critique of consumerism with the materials, with the bags. But then with the form, we have the reference to the spiritual, the whole, idea of the mandala and the history of the mandala, and it leading to some kind of enlightenment or assisting in enlightenment. So can you talk about that, expand on that connection?
Okay. Well, first, a brief explanation of a mandala is that it's a guide, it's an aid in meditation. So you would look at the mandala and study the imagery, and the imagery would be carefully chosen to help you on your path to enlightenment. So, some of the imagery that would be typical on, say, a Buddhist mandala, there would be nature imagery, lotus flower, something that symbolized water. So all those things, you spend lots of time, it may be years and years, studying the imagery on a mandala, and you're supposed to start at the outside and gradually work your way to the center, where at the center you might have an enlightenment that would lead you back out to the edge, that would lead you back into the center. So it's an ongoing enlightenment. It's not like, got enlightenment, I'm done. It's an ongoing process. So with my mandalas, I am using imagery that is definitely associated with worldly goods, and that kind of makes them ironic mandalas, because the imagery on a traditional mandala is to take you away from worldly connections. So what I'm doing is purposefully putting in imagery that reminds you of things you want, our desires, or maybe our greed. So in these pieces, what I'm trying to say, my intention as an artist is to shine a light on greed. Do we need everything that we want? Do we want everything that we see? How much are we being controlled by, these advertising images that, we are all studied. All of our online information is being accumulated, and there are ads targeted at us individually all day long. I get shoes on my sidebar. We all want things. I'm not an exception, but I'm not critical of people who want things and buy things. I think what I really am trying to do here is to just start that conversation, start that thinking. Are we running our lives, or is our lives being run by desire? And desire that's really not going to fill a void. Mm-hmm. It temporarily fills a void, but then you want more. All right, so this is dot mandala, and it's made with upcycled plastic bags. I'm basically collaging bits of plastic bags to each other. I use tape. It's an acid-free tape, so it doesn't yellow, and it keeps its stickiness, and really has pretty good archival qualities. I chose the bags mostly for their color, and I was really interested in the bags that have a lot of gray in them, and browns, and these kind of more neutral earth tones. And then I wanted to work off those with some bright pinks and oranges and yellows. So this one's really about a very energetic swirl of color. And I usually add a border on my pieces, and this is a running border. It's something that I saw when I was on a trip to Italy, And I was just amazed at the stonework. And that's something that stayed with me from seeing all the colorful works inside cathedrals. So in this piece, there's a lot of, in this artwork, there's a lot of small pieces of bags collaged together, and there's some pretty intense collaging going on here. And it's, the logos, I'm really interested in how recognizable the logos are. And folks often go, oh yeah, there's a Dillard's bag, or there's Garden Ridge, or, here's a store at the mall. So those logos that we're exposed to are usually very strong images, and they were designed to be that way. They're designed to grab our attention, our recognition. I really like cutting them up. And I feel like I'm rescripting the original, the consumer message. I've chopped it up. I've mixed them all up, and certainly this swirl shape can be seen as symbolic of putting it in the blender and then putting it out there again. Mm-hmm. It's a type of regurgitation of all this consumer culture. I'm also, saying, I get one of the things that I'm getting at too is that shopping is our spiritual practice. Mm-hmm. Going and obtaining something and the way it makes us feel, is similar to, people would go to church and they would come out feeling mm-hmm. wonderful. And I think people go to the mall and they come out and they feel wonderful. Then, they need to go back to the mall because there's this other thing that you want, or this thing that would go with the thing, or a bigger thing, or a thing for your friend, or for your child. So we're very, we are avid shoppers, and we spend a lot of time and money, going to these temples of consumerism. I liked the meditation mandala, and the mandala. We might have a familiarity. The most familiar mandala might be a Buddhist mandala or a sand mandala, but they appear in, although they're not religious per se, but they appear in almost every culture and every spiritual practice. I looked at rose windows growing up. I grew up in the Catholic Church and the Catholic religion. Those are mandalas. Mm-hmm. They were made to draw your eye and pull you in. And there was sacred imagery. It was sacred Catholic imagery. Mm-hmm. I think they're really beautiful. And there's something very basic about a circle mm-hmm. that draws us as humans in. I mean, we're all drawn to circles. I mean, they show up in architecture and how our cities are laid out. There are traffic circles and we stand in circles, we hold hands in circles. Mm-hmm. So I think a circle in and of itself is very powerful. So it made a nice package. In my mandalas, the imagery is coming right off of plastic bags. So they're all basically images that are made and designed to capture our attention and to capture our dollars, to make us have a good association with the store. So usually they're happy colors and catchy fonts and catchy slogans and beautiful images. I like cutting up the W on the Walgreens bag and reassembling it to look like an alphabet from a foreign language. And in this case, I think it looks kind of Middle Eastern, mm-hmm. which usually raises an eyebrow at this time. This here in the center is from a bag from China. And these little green and white circles are from Goodwill. These yellow bags in the background, if you look carefully, they say need extra cash. They're the yellow bags that the newspaper comes in Maine, where my mother lives. She saves these for me and sends them down. all these are just little bits and pieces of lots of different bags. You know, this global conversation goes in one direction. And I'm going to see, how can I explain that? Because when you talk about, you know, the kid in India wearing a Nike t-shirt, you know, maybe you're in a remote village and you're wearing a Nike t-shirt or a Frampton t-shirt from the 80s or something. You don't necessarily know about Frampton or Nike or, you know, but you're wearing this thing and, you know, you don't know the history behind it. But on this end of, say, the consumer chain, we know, you know, because we have computers and we see pictures of people in India and, you know, in different parts of Africa too. There's a lot of that where you'll see a picture of someone in a t-shirt and you go, "Oh, that was from the 80s." Yeah. But there is, you know, there's, I guess it's the rag trade that, you know, once we're not using them anymore, then they go somewhere else. And eventually they're used for their fibers again. But some do end up in other countries and people are wearing them. So I do feel like, you know, we're definitely, and I'm definitely in a privileged position. You know, I could complain about not being very privileged because I'm an artist and, you know, I don't have the same income as someone with a quote unquote real job. But, you know, I still have it's a very privileged position to, you know, be able to sit in my garage and arrange polka dots and stripes and collaging bits of colorful plastic bags together and then have an audience for that. That's really amazing. This is a piece that's in progress. I'm hoping it'll be done very soon. It does take a lot of time. I decided to use a collaging technique all the way around and get a color gradation thing happening. I'm not sure where this is going, and I'm never sure where they're going. I just start on faith. I just start because I think yellow is pretty today, and I'll start with yellow, and I'll think, well, I'll make it go to orange. And I just make the decisions intuitively as I go along. Sometimes interesting things happen with little images. You know, I got a little crown. There are quite a few smiley faces here and circles. So there's like a little circle theme happening. There are, you know, sometimes images end up next to each other and it creates a little theme. So right now I go between tacking them to the wall or taping them to the floor, depending on what I'm doing. I'm trying to create a little border within this area, a very intensely geometric border. And the way I work is there are various pieces here on the wall. I have another piece that I worked on. I'm going to just put it right on the wall. You know, it might end up here. I don't know. I have another piece up here that I worked on. It might be part of a large piece or it might just be a small piece. This is something I've been working on for a while. They're all taped together and that might end up inside here or... So I have a chop shop. I recombine, combine and recombine until I feel like I've got a real good theme going. So sometimes a theme emerges at the end. I don't plan a theme for mandala at first.
So then does the title really come at the end?
The title comes at the end, yeah. I've been really kind of amazed at, you can cut the teeniest piece of a bag that has Mickey Mouse and everybody knows it's Mickey Mouse. It's very recognizable, just like logos. So, I do find myself, and drawn to these, especially SpongeBob. And SpongeBob I've gotten Mexican SpongeBob. I've gotten European SpongeBob. You know, there's a lot of SpongeBob out there that's not real SpongeBob, but you look at it and you're like, okay, this is the SpongeBob thing. So I really like using that imagery. You know, I might just use SpongeBob's eyes, or I might just use SpongeBob's hands for my purposes. But I I think it's very effective imagery, and it's really beautiful. And people do have an attachment or repulsion. This is a piece I've been working on, and I'm at a point, it's I would say pretty close to being finished. I think all the basic elements are there. I'm really happy with, the transition from this to this to this. There's probably going to be more details added in, and it'll be in layers. This will be mounted to a piece of mat board so that it's raised up from this surface, and this surface will be raised up from this surface. And last year I did a few pieces, did 3 pieces that way, and so this is a continuation of making them actually dimensional. It'll probably be about ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch thick in the end. So I guess you would call it low relief at that point. In this piece, I chewed up any recognizable imagery. These pieces are so small that I was kind of playing with, at what point do you not recognize imagery? And so there's not a lot that's recognizable in here, I don't think. But then this is a little bigger, so I like to play with the scale. In this case, I think maybe this will be recognizable to some people. Once I finish a piece, I take it to a giant flatbed scanner here in South Austin, and I get the work scanned. And the reason I do that is I want to have a digital file of these works. The plastic bags are said to last forever, and I've been doing these works for 10 years, and all the works are still fine. They look brand new, but I don't know how long they'll be with us. And I thought, if I scan them, then I could make prints. I've also been making these, I'll call them, the technical name I guess would be laminated die-cut prints. So this piece here was a mandala it is a mandala. It's about 36 inches in diameter, and had it scanned. And then for this process, we pumped up the color, laminated it between plexi, and then cut it on a CNC router. So I could do this in any size. I could do it twice the size of the original, or this is like a 9 or 10 inch size. And this has been really fun because I can change the scale of any of these pieces to fit the environment that we're going to put them in. So I've had a lot of fun basically taking these and coming up with various compositions in public places. So I've done a lot of work in children's hospitals. These are sealed. You can see the edge, and that's really important in a children's hospital environment and in public art, that the work is protected and durable. One of the things that I'm doing consciously when I'm working is I'm looking at things that we throw away, things that are considered disposable. And these disposable items that go through our hands day in and day out that we don't notice, I'm really interested in, revealing some sort of beauty or truth from them. So when I'm working, that's one of the things I'm really thinking about is, basically turning something from trash into something valued, and that is beauty.